So yeah, blank screen. All right, so you can go up to the top, and then you can hit 2D,
Yep.
and then we'll click for root node on the top left, click 2D scene,
Okay.
and then, I don't know, we can double click that, give it a new name or something. I'll just call it world. It's kind of like my default start. And then Control S, save, and yeah.
So that would be like the overall, like, that's like the scene name, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the name of the scene. You can see it down here in the file. We have that scene we just made. And so we're gonna, I guess we'll start with just making like a basic, we're just gonna use placeholder graphics, and then we can go online and find some free assets to use. So you can hit this plus sign, or you can hit Control A when you have this root scene selected.
Okay.
And then that will let you add a node. So you can search for whatever one you have it selected, or whatever node you have selected, I'll add it as a child to that. So if you just search for static body, and then just double click that. Do you know like static body, rigid body, what those things are?
No, not quite.
Okay, so if you want to have like a physical object in a game world that you can collide with and stuff, there's typically like 3 different kinds. So there's going to be a static body, which is one that doesn't move. So that would be like walls or houses or the ground or something like that.
True.
And then rigid body is something that bounces or moves. So like you have a ball or a grenade or something like that that's going to be physically active and bounce around and things like that. You could have a rigid body. And then, but for characters, if you're doing like a character, you typically don't want them to bounce around, have things physically interact them and have realistic physics. You usually want them to have like custom physics determined by, player input. So what we use for that would be a kinematic body, which can collide with walls and stuff and can push rigid bodies around, but it doesn't get pushed around by other things. So
it's a different, like, it's a different physics altogether between each individual.
Yeah. So
All
we're
right,
going to
great.
make some environment pieces. So we're going to use a static body, and we're going to need to add a collision shape for it to define its shape. So I'd hit Control A on that, and then search for collision shape 2D. And then you just add that. And then we have to actually define what kind of shape it has. So if I select this, I can hit F, and it'll move the camera to where I have that node.
Yeah.
And then up here, we can define its shape. So there's different kinds. There's like a capsule, circle. We're going to do rectangle here. So you can just click that. You have to select the collision shape node, not the static body.
Right. Okay.
And then, right under shape, at the top right of it.
Yeah, right here.
And then you choose rectangle. Yeah.
All right.
And then we also should give it like a graphic. So if you go down to where this icon is at the bottom, icon PNG, you can drag that into the scene, or just drag it onto the scene, and that would add a sprite node. We could also do Control A and search for a sprite, and then sprite, and then you could go over to where it says, thanks for the sub, Nizart. So when you have that sprite selected at the top right, you can see it says texture, and you could drag the icon onto the texture, and that would give you
like that?
Yeah, that would give you the same thing.
Oh, all right.
So I'm just going to delete the icon sprite I added. So you just select it and hit delete. Yeah, you just want one of them. Is that one centered? Because that's the one you dragged in, right? So you can go over to transform over here. If you click that, and that'll give you position, rotation, and scale. So you can just zero out. Yeah. You could also hit the arrow. So when you change it, it shows an arrow next to it, which means if you click that, it will return it to the default, which is 0.
Oh, right. Okay.
So now we have this in the scene. We could go over to visibility under here with the sprite selected. And then you go under modulate, and we could change the color. Just click in here, change it to like black. And
where's modulate located?
Under canvas item and visibility.
And then
Yeah, modulate. Just click the color, and then you can choose what color you want. And it'll,
alright.
yeah, and it'll tint the color. So I mean, you can choose anything. Since we're just going to be using this icon as like placeholder graphics, we're going to use multiple different colors for different things until we get some actual graphics in. So okay, now we have this node. Let's make the collision shape match the shape of the icon. So you can't see it right now because it's rendering behind the sprite, and we can move it. So in the hierarchy here, we can just move the sprite to be above the shape. So you just click and drag.
Oh, just over the collision?
Yeah. I mean, you could put it outside too, but I want to keep it as a child of the static body so I can move them all at the same time. So with the collision shape, you can select these little points on it to change its size and just like drag it out to match the size of the icon. You can also go over to the top right where it shows shape and click that, and then you can manually enter the bounds of it. So right now it has, I think that's 64 by 64 because it just shows half of it.
True, alright.
And then, yeah, so that's the size of it. Then we can select the actual static body. And there are different like manipulators up here at the top left. So like this is select mode where you select and drag things. Then there's this one, move mode, rotate mode, scale mode. So I want to do scale mode, so I'll hit S, and then I could like drag and scale. Wait, is this the one that I use? Yeah, I've been doing so much 3D, I forgot how much the 2D, or how the 2D works. You can also use the shortcuts up here where it shows next to like scale is S, move is W.
Yeah.
So like I could scale this out, and that would, you know, give me this shape. And I could do W and move it. E would let me rotate it. So yeah, that kind of thing. I kind of like, I think this is what I've done. Okay, so if you select the sprite itself, if you want to, oh, you can hit Control Z to undo everything, by the way.
Yeah, I did. I think I undid the
oh, I see.
Shape instead, so I had to fix that. All right, we're good.
Yeah. Let's see. So I usually work with the sprite bounds, because when you go into select mode, when you have a sprite selected, it gives you these points on the side that I think are a lot easier to work with. So what I can do is drag the sprite to be on top or outside, and then I can drag the static body to be inside it. And then if I scale it with these, I get, it'll scale the whole thing. Yeah, like that.
Oh, okay.
So if you select the icon, then you can scale it. And yeah, and then I just use W and E to move it. And then if I hit Q, it'll show me those dots that I can use to manipulate its size. So I'm going to name this sprite ground, I'll call it, in the inspector. And then I can hit Control D to duplicate it. Then I could like, move those around in the scene. Oh, so yeah, if you hit W to move, then it'll move whatever you have currently selected. Because if you hit Q, it'll let you select new things, which it's a little annoying, but
yeah,
I guess it fits. So yeah, just move things around, Control D, make a little environment. And then, let's see. You can also, when you're moving things or rotating things, you can hold Control, and it'll like snap them at different increments. And you can change, if you go up to the 3 dots here next to these little magnets, you can configure the different snap settings.
Over here, right? Hold on, let
The
me see.
3 dots to the left. Yeah,
Yep.
there you go. Configure snap, you can change how much position offset. Right now it's at 0 for some reason on me. But I could do like 15, so it'll do 15 pixel offset. Let's see, I can show the grid. If you hit that, it'll show you the grid you're using. And And then, yeah.
Where did you do the grid at? Oh, okay, I see.
Right there. Yeah, it's also Shift G works.
Oh, so it snaps to locations according to the grid.
Yeah, and you can change the grid, or the grid will change based on what your grid offset things were. Wait, grid offset, grid step. I forget what these are. Oh, grid step, I think, moves it from the center, or 0.0. Yeah. Okay. So we've got this. Let's make a character.
Okay.
So let's see. Go up to project on the top left, and then do project settings, and then input map. And so there's a bunch of default input stuff set up. We're not going to use any of that. We're going to do. So let's see. We want move left. So I'll just type in move left. And I use underscores because it's easier to work with. Text strings that are, no spaces in them. But yeah, just type in move left, and then you would hit enter when you're done, and it'll put it at the bottom of the list here.
Right here.
And then, yeah, and then I'll also do move right, jump, exit, and restart.
Move, jump?
Or just jump.
Or just jump, okay.
Yeah, I mean you can, you can name them what you want. It's just my naming convention that I use.
And then what was the last one?
Move left, move right, jump, exit, and restart.
Exit and restart. Alright.
And then you can go to this plus sign next to it, and it would be add event. So I'm going to use key.
Yeah.
And then so for left, I'm going to hit A. So I'm going to use A. You could also do like the arrow keys or anything. But yeah, hit A and then click the OK. And now it shows if you hit A, you'll move left. You can also add more events if you want. So I could do arrow keys as well. And yeah, you can just define all the keys you want for everything. So yeah, jump, I typically use space. Exit, I would hit escape. Restart is R. Yeah,
all right,
that looks good. So then close that, and now we need to make a character. So I'm going to create a new tab up here, add a new scene, and then we'll create, hit the plus sign, then search for kinematic body, 2D, yep. And so, yeah, and I'll name this player, and I'll hit save, and just save that wherever. So remember what I said about kinematic body versus the other kinds?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so let's see, we'll add another node called a collision shape. And I think this one I'm going to make a capsule. That's usually a good shape for characters. So then add the shape at the top right. I mean, top right, there's the drop down that says shape. When you have the collision shape selected.
Sure.
Yeah. And then, so there you go. Now you have a capsule shape. I'll also add a sprite. This will just be placeholder for now, but yeah. And I'm gonna, sprite. And you drop the icon on it. And I keep it outside. I mean, not the sprite itself, the visual, but the sprite node, I keep it. Oh, yeah. So with that, you don't drop it into the scene. You would drag it to where it says texture at the top right.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would put the node not as a child of collision shape, because you're going to want to access graphics separately later on for like animating and stuff. So like just move it up so it's outside.
There you go.
Yeah, like that. So, and then we can scale it too. If you hit Q, you can just like move it in. I'm going to turn off the grid snap. But yeah, just going to change the size. And also, typically you want the bottom of a character to be at 0. So I'm going to move the collision shape directly up. And you can hold shift when you move it, so it'll snap to like one axis. So if you hold shift and then move it straight up, it'll snap to the Y.
Oh, like that, right?
Yeah. So, and then you can also check its transform, so like make sure it's centered and stuff. So this collision shape, actually the capsule, if I click on it, it says it has a height of 20 and a radius of 10, which means radius of 10 would mean it's, I forget if, let me just check the grid, I'll see how tall it is. That means it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 60. Okay. So it's 20. So you double the radius, do that twice, plus the height would be 60. So that means it's 60 units tall. So I'd want to move it up to. Wait, not. That doesn't make sense. I guess it's just 40 tall. Okay, so it's just the radius twice, and then the height would give you the height of the capsule. And also negative is up in Godot, which is a little confusing. But yeah, I just set the Y to be negative 20 and the X to be 0. And that'll make so the bottom of the capsule's exactly at the 0 point. Alright, so we got that. Now we need to add some code to it. So, let's see. So if you click the this little paper with the plus sign, if you select the player node first, and then you click the little so that'll create a script, and you can name it here. Just leave it as player. Click create. So this gives us the default script here. This is just what it's auto fills everything in. So at the top it says extends kinematic body. So that means the script is going to be assuming that this class is a kinematic body 2D, which is correct, which will let you access methods and stuff from, well, we'll get into that, but basically it lets the script know that we're a kinematic body.
Working with that, yeah.
Yeah, and then over here, I'm just going to delete these comments, but ready is called once when the game starts, basically. So that's where we can do like initializing things. And then down here we have, it's commented out, you can see process. If you remove the pound signs, that'll mean that this code will run. So this is called process. It's run every single frame, once a frame. And delta is, it passes in delta, which is the time since the last frame, and then it runs pass, which means do nothing. So it's just skipping that code.
Okay.
So what we need to do is we want to move left and right. So that's all we're going to do for now. So if we go up to the top, do you know what variables are?
No.
In code? Okay, so a variable basically stores data. So like numbers or letters or things like that. So if we type in var and we'll say move speed equals, let's say 100. So that means we're going to move at 100 pixels a second is what I want. But right now it's just a blank. It just says this. Whenever we say the word move speed, we mean the number 100. And I put 0.0 so it knows that I want numbers with fractions. Because if I were to not put that, it would assume we're storing an integer, which is a whole number, which behaves differently than fractions. So if I were to divide two integers, it would round to the nearest integer, whereas if I do .0, then it knows when you do a division, round, or don't round, keep it as a fraction. So this is how you define variables, is you just put var and then a name, and then you set it equal to something, and then it figures out what it's supposed to be based off of what you set it to be.
Okay.
So now we need to get our input. So let's see, we can do under, I don't know if we want to do it here. So if you're doing anything with physics or movement, you typically don't want to tie it to the frame rate, because if somebody's frame rate changes, like their computer's going really fast or really slow or has spikes and lag or whatever, it could result in movement glitches where somebody moves really fast or really slow based on how fast their computer is. So what we can do is, instead of process, we'll call it physics process. And that means, so physics process runs at a set rate no matter how fast or slow your computer is. It runs exactly 60 times a second. I think it's 60 in Godot by default. So it always runs 60 times a second, and that means, yeah, so that this is where you'd want to do anything related to movement or physics. So then we need to get what direction to move in. So we can do if, and we'll type input dot is action pressed move left. Is action, oh, and input would be capital I.
Okay. Okay, now it worked. Good.
Yeah. So dot is action pressed. It should be no space there.
After action, no space?
Or no space after the, is there a space? It looks like there's a space after the dot, after input.
Sure. Okay, fixed.
And then you would parenthesis, yeah. And then move left. So you can just hit the arrow. When it shows that pop-up, that's like suggestions for things to put there.
Yeah.
So you can, yeah, just arrow key down and go to move left. It's a little awkward in here. But arrow key down, right, or you could double click it. Yeah, and then it'll autofill. So, and then at the end, put a colon, and then you do new line. And then just hit enter to do new line, and then right now you can see it's complaining that we don't have any code in here, so we can just put pass to make it be quiet right now. And then I'll go over what this means. So basically, input is a class that has a bunch of predefined code in it, right? And if I hold control and click the word input, it'll take me to that class. So right now this is the input class, and this tells us all the code that's set up in here. So you control click on it. There you go. So this shows everything we can do here. Like, and if you look at this list, so it says like, is action just pressed, right? And then, or is action pressed, is set mouse mode, set, I don't know what most of these things are, but we can like scan over here to get a general idea, and then if you want to learn more, you can click on the actual method and it'll tell you more details of what it does. Like get action strength, returns a value between 0 and 1 representing the intensity of a given action. So if you're on a joypad, the further away the analog stick is from the dead zone, the closer the value is to 1. So
it's a gradual movement.
Yeah, so if we wanted to use that, we could actually, I think we could use this here for like our move key. It would just return a flat 0 or a flat 1 because we're using a keyboard instead of something that's analog, but we can just check if we're actually pressing the key. But yeah, this is, whenever you see a class like that, you can control click and see like everything in it. And so, yeah, and then we're just saying we do dot is action pressed. If you click back at the top right, there's an arrow that shows back.
On the top right here.
Yeah, and that'll take you back to where you were. And then of course, yeah, right where you were, this also shows where you just were, or places you have visited in the code.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it shows we were at the input class, but we're also at our custom player class. So the input, it shows, okay, we're referencing the input class, then we say dot, and then we put in the input method we want. So like, we wanted is action pressed, so we could actually go to input, look at is action pressed right here, and it says, okay, when you want to do this, it's going to say is action pressed, whoops, I didn't mean to click that. Hang on, okay, there we go. So is action pressed, so it shows right here that what's on the left, oh, that's annoying, I can't highlight it. But the part on the left here, this is what it's going to return. So that means it's going to return a Boolean or a bool, which means true or false. So it's going to return true or false based on if the action is pressed. And then over here, it's in parentheses, it says you pass in an action, which is going to be a string, which is text. String is the word for text in computer science and stuff. So, and then if I click on the actual method, I can learn more. So returns true if you're passing the action event, and yeah.
Okay.
gives you some more details. But yeah, now if I go back to player, we can see we defined that method, or we wrote down that name of that method, and then we pass in move left, which is what we defined that action for the A key. So if you press A on the keyboard, this whole thing will return true. If we're not pressing A, it's going to return false. And then, so that's what that does right here. But then before it, we put if, and then after we put a colon, which means it's now an if statement. So that means if this is true, it'll run this code here where it says pass. Actually, we could put, I'll put a print statement here, and then I'll put test in it, right? Parentheses, and then yeah, in quotation marks, put test. And so now I can run this scene. So if I hit F6, it'll run that scene right there. And then if you hit the A key, it'll print out test. See at the bottom, as long as you're holding A, it'll print it out. So that means this code is being reached. So it's like, okay, good. We can also do else and then print not pressing or something. So you would want the else to be unindented. So go before it and then backspace one.
Like that, and then.
So move your cursor up to the same line that else is on, and then hit Shift Tab. There you go. That's where you want it. So the else should be in the same line as if.
Oh, right. Okay. And then I can press enter and then print not pressing?
Yeah. All right. Okay. And then if we hit F6, and then it's printing, so you can see at the bottom it's outputting not pressing.
Oh,
and
right.
If I hold A, it's outputting test. Does this whole part here make sense to you with the if statements and stuff?
Yep.
And do you understand why it's on this line here or why it's indented here versus not indented over here?
No, I don't understand. I don't understand that.
Okay.
Why would they have to be indented?
Okay, so there's something called scope. So when you in Godot, that's determined by how indented it is. So if I hit tab, you can see it doesn't indent. I can backspace to delete it, right?
Yeah.
Or I can shift tab to backspace. So this is the outermost scope, which means if I define variables or functions or anything out here, anything inside anything else can reference those. If I were to define a variable out here or inside the physics process, so whatever equals 1, ASD equals 1, then I can access ASD throughout this entire anything that is within physics process and that is anything that's within physics process can now reference or do stuff with ASD. Like I could do print ASD, and then if I were to run that, if I hold 1, it prints 1. Oh, I guess I should have explained that, or how to use variables. But basically anything inside of here can reference anything out here.
Okay.
Whoops, I deleted that. But if I were to define ASD in here, right in here, then this print method could not access it, right? Like it would throw an error and say that doesn't exist. It's not in the current scope. Whereas if it were out here, I could, because it's because one, it's defined before this code is called. So if I were to put it over here, it would say that doesn't exist. And it's also it's at a higher level, or like it's less indented. Like if I were to like if I were to do another print in here, like if, I don't know, true var b equals 3 or something, then this could not print it because that's higher up. It's like basically it runs this code, it defined b, and then it's like gets to here and it's like, okay, we're done with this part, forget about b, like delete that from memory because that part's done. Does that make sense? Am I like...
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, I mean, it'll make also the more you like do code and stuff.
Yeah.
It just kind of like naturally you get to understand it more.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so okay, so we have move left here, and now we want to get move right. So I can highlight this and hit Control C, and then Control V over here. I can also just click on the line itself and hit Control C, and that'll copy that entire line. And if I do Control V, it'll paste that entire line. And then I'm just going to change left to right over here. And then I can put pass, whoops, in there. Okay, so
Oops.
tab to, yeah, indent, or backspace from there. There you go. So yeah, just get to what I have here.
There you go.
And you can delete the else and the print.
Where are you stating?
Line 14 and 15, you can delete those lines.
Okay.
You can also, when you click on a line, you can hit Control X and it'll cut that line.
Was that all of them?
It's close enough to what I have. So what we need to do now is get the direction to actually move. So we're going to define var move direction, and we'll just say 1. So I'm going to, in this case, 1 is going to be right, -1 is going to be left, 0 is going to be stand still. So equals 1, yeah. And then, oh wait, I don't want to do 1. Equals 0, actually.
All right.
So yeah, so default is stand still. Then if we're moving left, I'm going to say move direction minus equals 1. So yeah.
Right under move left, right?
Yeah, so just get rid of your print statements and then, yeah, put that there. So you do minus equals 1. And you want to have it indented so it'll oh, looks like you hit the insert key on your keyboard.
What?
You
you wanted to indent it, right? Oh.
Yeah. On your keyboard, hit the insert key. I'm not sure who it is on yours, but when you see that underscore line, that means you're in insert mode. Yeah, okay, there you go. So, oh wait, no, put it back. Yeah, there you go. When you're in insert mode, it deletes text in front whenever you type.
Okay.
So go to where the equal sign and put a minus sign right before it.
Yep.
So, oh, looks like you have, yeah, minus equals and then a 1. So this is the same thing as saying, or it's basically saying take the move direction variable and subtract 1 from it. So in this case, if we hold down the key to move left, it's going to take move direction, which is 0, and it's going to subtract 1 from it. So now it will equal 1, or -1. And then we're going to do the same thing under move right, except we're going to do plus equals 1.
I delete the pass variable?
Yeah. Pass isn't a variable. All it means is just skip this. And
okay, right.
We just put it there as like a placeholder so that the
code stops at some point.
Or so that the code, well, because if I have a blank thing after the input, then it throws an error here, and you can see it throws an error, and then I won't be able to run my game. So if I want like a placeholder while I'm testing something else out, I could just put pass so that the thing doesn't get upset. Okay, so now you can clear out those empty lines on your screen. So like line 14, 16, 18, right? Just, yeah. You can also just click and hit Control X and it'll delete that line. There you go, yeah. So do you see what's going on here code-wise? Can you explain what's happening?
Like when it comes to, when you press an action like move left, which we've set to A, like the move direction will go to, as long as it's pressed, it'll go -1, correct?
Yes, it'll equal -1.
And then is the one when you press it and then when you let it go? Is that what it is?
So it's going to be 0. So we define the variable inside the physics process. So that means every physics frame, we define this variable and we set it to be equal to 0. And then when we press move left, it's going to subtract 1 from it, so that'll equal -1. I mean, I could have basically said equals -1 like this and just set it directly equal to it.
Oh, yeah.
But I like to subtract 1 because it lets me do a neat trick, sort of. Oh, also, your line 15 should be move right. It should say move right at the end.
Oh, true. Yeah, there you
go. Okay, yeah. Sorry, continue what you're explaining it.
Yeah, so it's accordingly to how like the inputs work accordingly to the variable. So if you were to press A, you would have the move direction go accordingly to the input that you press. So if the value is 0, and then if the action is pressed with meaning A to move left, it would subtract 1. And then if you wanted to move right, it would go the opposite, right?
Yeah, it would add 1.
Yeah, it would add 1.
What would happen if you press both keys at the same time right now?
I don't know.
Okay,
both A and D?
Yeah, at the same time, what would happen? What would move direction be set to?
0.
Yep, yeah, because you subtract 1 and then you add 1.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to just directly set move direction to be -1 or +1,
you just stand perfectly still.
Yeah, but if so with this, in this case, I'm subtracting 1 and then I'm adding 1. But if I were to directly set it to be -1, like this,
yeah,
or like this, right, +1 or -1, what would happen if I pressed both keys at the same time? Can you take a guess?
It wouldn't go to 1, would it?
It would.
Okay.
Because move right's happening after move left, so it's overriding move direction and setting it to 1.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I like to have it like this because I think it makes more sense to have the character stand still. If you press
naturally, it would have. You'd think that every type would come after the equal, since it's almost like a sort of like a confirmation of it, like being like if -1 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I never would have expected it to add the value before the equals. You know?
Oh, I see. Yeah, this is like so like a minus or a plus. Those are called operators, and so you can do like 1 + 3 or whatever. But if you want to like just directly quickly set a variable, it's like shorthand. So this is the same. Whoops. This is the same as writing that, right? Move direction equals move direction -1. That's the same thing. It's just shorthand for writing that. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have showed you that. Maybe, I don't know if that's like a beginner-friendly thing to show, but it just.
I know. Yeah. No, but this obviously you want to make it more compact.
Yeah. It's more readable. Yeah, less wordy. Okay, so we have the direction we're moving in. Now we need to actually move. So there's a method. So if we have this kinematic body 2D class, we can control click on it and see what methods we have. So control click that. So if you scroll down, there's a bunch of different methods here. Specifically, we want these 3. So if you look at, there's move and collide, move and slide, and then move and slide with snap. So move and collide is like the most basic. So it just moves, and then it will move your character in a direction by an amount, and then it will, when it hits something, it stops. Move and slide. You can click on them and see more details on what they do. It goes in depth. Move and slide will move until you hit something, and then it'll slide along that surface. So, for example, if you run like into a wall, like imagine a top-down game, and you run into a wall at an angle. With move and collide, you would just stop. But with move and slide, you would run into the wall, and then you would slide along it a bit too. So that's typically better for most character movement, is to use move and slide because it feels more intuitive to the player. And then move and slide with snap is typically used in platformer games where if you're like running on sloped surfaces, it will, if you run to the right, imagine, and then the slope goes down a little bit, instead of like flying through the air, you'll like snap to the ground when you run down the slope, and it'll auto account for that. We're just going to use move and slide because it's simpler to work with right now.
Yeah.
So we go to player. So we're going to just type move and slide. And then, and then parentheses. Double click or hit enter when you have it highlighted. Yeah. And now you can see a pop-up that shows you what it needs here. So there's a whole bunch of things. What we just need is linear velocity, and then the up direction is what we need. So do you know what 2D vectors or 3D vectors are? Do you know what vectors are in general?
Yeah.
So explain what a 2D vector would be.
Is it in accordance to like graphics?
Yeah, it could be graphics or just like a position in a two-dimensional world.
No, I'm thinking according to like Adobe Illustrator or something like that. Like obviously like a vector graphics or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. So like
this would obviously differ in accordance to the objects or whatever.
So like imagine a vector is like either a position or a direction. So like imagine you have what's the quickest paint thing I can get up? So imagine you have a grid, right?
Yeah.
And you can define positions on that. So you could be like, all right, let's say, I didn't want that to be red. Let's see. Okay, so you have, let's say, oh, damn. I hate, that's annoying. It like changes the color while you're, okay, so we have this. We have this grid. There, brush. Oh, come on. Change the color on me.
Sound like old school paint.
Yeah, I just want something that loads quick. Okay, so we have our grid here, and we can say that we have all these squares on it. So let's say that right here at the, I made a red and green lines. We can define these as like position 0. Yeah. So this is 0, 0. So it's 0 on, we can call the red one X, which is horizontal, and the green one Y, which is vertical. So, and then you can go up, this is 1, this is 2, this is -1. Actually, it's reversed in Godot, so I'll do, this is -1, this is -2, this is 1, this is 2, right? And then on the X, this would be 1, this would be 2, -1, -2.
Okay.
And then any position in this world can be defined by 2 numbers, right? Like this over here is 2 on the X and 1 on the Y. So that gives, right here, that gives us this position. And then we can get, like, I don't know, even in between positions, like this would be -1.5 on the X and this position right here, I guess. This would be -1.5 on the Y, for example, right? So that's that position. So you understand how the positions work?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you can also count it as a direction. So imagine a line pointing from 0 to that position, right? So that's, or an arrow pointing from there to there. So that gives us a direction. So when you have your character, you can imagine, okay, we have our position, which is defined by a 2D vector. We also want to move it. So if our position's here, and we want to move it to here, we can have a movement vector that's added, or we have this arrow that's just this travel direction, and we add it to the position, and we get the new position. So what we want right now is we don't need to worry about its position. We have a movement method. All we need to pass in is how much we want to move it per second. Movement slide goes by per second. So we just want to move horizontally. So we're just going to pass in an x value of our move speed times the direction, because our direction is going to be 0, 1, or positive or negative 1. So if it's a 1, that means we're going to move to the right. If it's negative 1, we move to the left.
The left, yeah.
But it requires you to have a 2D vector as the input for our movement, but we're just going to leave y as 0. Does that all make sense?
Yeah. So how would that be accordingly to like slopes and stuff? Like, would you have to change the vector the vector then? Like the direct?
No, because for A and D, we're only moving horizontally, right? We only move left and right, flat left and right. And you can, like, move and slide with snap that I told you about. That would automatically snap you to the slope, so you wouldn't have to worry about it. But you're always going to move the same speed left or right. That's typically how any platformer game works, even like 3D platformers. Like Super Mario, you're moving across like slopes and surfaces, but you're still moving the same direction horizontally always.
Okay.
Pretty much. There's no need to like complicate it and like get the angle, the slope you're on, and move at a set speed down that slope. It's just it's not really noticeable to the player, and it's just it's a lot more work. So we'll define a 2D vector. This will be var move vec, say, and I'll put vector2 and then parentheses. And those should both be unindented, the lines 17 and 18. You can just hit Shift Tab on both lines.
Both move and slide and...
Yeah, you want them to be just one indentation. That means they're part of just physics process. They're not counted as being inside the if statement. Because if you had them the way they were before, that code would only get run when you're holding the move right key.
Right.
Vector2, yeah, and it should be capital, the vector, capital V, and no space between R and 2. Yeah. Okay, and then we need to put in what the X is and what the Y is. So our X in here is just going to be our move direction times our move speed. And so for times, it's the symbol above 8. You would hit Shift 8 on your keyboard. And then times move speed. And then we need to set the Y, so you do a comma, and then hit 0. Yeah, comma, and then 0. Yeah. And then you can copy move vector into move and slide.
Oh, I spelled move. I spelled it with a S, not a V.
Oh. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't really matter what its name. It's just for whatever's readable to you.
All right. So move and slide, or
put it in the parentheses. So now that's actually all it needs. Move and slide just needs what our movement vector is, but it's going to by default assume that there is no, up direction. There's no floor. It's not going to assume that there's any direction that's up, so it's not going to be able to do correct slide calculations. So we can just hit comma, and we'll put in a vector2, and then put period, and then up in all capitals. Yeah, and then dot, and then up. Yeah. So you notice that vector2, it's highlighted the same way that input is. That means vector2 is also a class. And if I hit Control and click on it, you can see I mean, there's a bunch of methods in here for doing linear algebra, math stuff, vector math. And then there's also constants, which are predefined values. So like one of these is vector2.up, which is just a vector2 that's 0 on the x and -1 on the y. So it's just a vector that points straight up. So we can just access that to use for when we're calling move and slide here. And I think, okay, so we can put our player in the scene and we should be able to move now. So if you go over to world, oh yeah, we'll get it working and then you can go over anything. So yeah, click your world scene at the top left, and then you click 2D to get out of the script view at the middle top.
Yeah.
And then click the world node here, and then click, see this, I don't know what this symbol is supposed to be.
I think it's like a chain.
Yeah, so you click that, and then you'll see all your scenes you've created, and one of them is player, so you can double click that. And then there's your player. And then, oh yeah, you can use scroll wheel to zoom in and out, and middle mouse click and drag to like move around.
Yeah,
so
I'm more familiar with that. Yeah.
Okay, and then just move your player wherever you want on the scene. Make sure, oh wait, there's no gravity, so it doesn't really matter. And then we can hit F6 will run this scene, but you can also hit F5, and that will let you choose a main scene. So like I'll hit that, select a main scene, and then choose world. Yeah, just double click that or hit open. And then, yeah, so that's, oh right, the camera. So the default camera is set like over, yeah, if you just close that.
Yeah.
If you zoom out a bit, and if you hide the grid view, you can see there's like a blue line. You might have to zoom. Yeah, you see that blue line? That's the default camera view. So we can add in your own camera since you have your stuff kind of off the screen. So you just hit Control A, add a node. Actually, let's add it on the player because you probably want the camera on the player. So go to your player scene. Go to the actual scene. You can also click on the player, see that there's like a little, I don't know what that is, like a movie like cut symbol. Yeah, click that and it'll switch to the player scene. So, and then you'll hit Control A on the player and type in camera, go click on camera 2D. And then, so that gives you a camera node. If you zoom out, you can see the camera bounds. If you zoom out farther, see the, yeah, that's showing what the camera sees. And then also with the camera, click current over there, make sure that's checked all the way on the right. Click current up like 3. Yeah, there you go. So that's the current camera now. And then don't have to worry about anything else for now. We'll just have that. So then you can run your scene again and your camera should be centered on your player. You can just hit F5. Yeah. So there you go. Now if we hit A and D, you should move.
Oh yeah, look.
Yeah, you can see you're moving now. And you didn't set up any slopes on your scene, but you can see on mine, if I hit this slope, I move up it, right? I slide up it pretty well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like that. So let's do gravity, I guess. Or actually, is there anything here that you're like confused by and you want to ask questions about in the current code?
Regarding the code, no. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of doing it more than over time. You know what I mean? So that way you could beat into your head like how the general behavior of it works, right? But no, I think it makes enough sense to me where on how the inputs work.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it took like I think like 2 or 3 weeks of watching tutorials before I like kind of like got it a little bit. All right, so we want to do gravity and jumping. So if you go hit your player, you can hit either script, or you can, when you're on your player node, see the player node I have here, there's a little script next to it. I can click that little paper thing next to the player node. Yeah, right there. Yeah, if you click that, it opens the script as well. So let's define gravity. So I'm going to say var gravity equals, I think we'll say 98 pixels, right? So 98 pixels per second is going to be the acceleration from gravity. And then I want to do, we're going to do some physics here because it makes everything feel better. We're going to do var velocity, and this is going to be a blank vector2. So if I just do velocity equals vector2 and then parentheses, that'll give you a vector2 that has 0 as the x and 0 as the y. So that means our velocity is 0 horizontally and vertically right now. And then one more, we'll do var jump force, I'll call it, and I'll set it to like around 200 or something. All right, so now what we want to do is, let me see. So instead of move vec down here, we can set, we'll say velocity dot x is equal to move direction times move speed. And then we can just delete our current move vector. And I'll put velocity in under. I'll just guide you through as you write it. So yeah, move direction times move speed. And then delete the line that has move vector on it.
All of it?
Yeah. Oh, something's mistyped on your screen. Oh, I think, did you mistype move vector? Or move direction?
I added a plus here by mistake. Wait, what happened here?
Yeah, just retype.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
All right, there you go. And then replace, in the move and slide, replace move vector with velocity. So, yeah, just paste that over. Yeah, velocity. You can just hit enter when it brings the highlight up. Okay, so now it's setting our velocity x. So this is doing the same thing as before, but now we can do, let's see, we want to do velocity x, we want to do velocity y. So velocity dot y, so we're going to access the vertical component of the velocity, and we're going to set that to equals, actually we're going to set it to subtract gravity times delta. So minus equal gravity times delta. So delta is the time since the last frame. So it's going to, yeah, it's just basically applying downwards acceleration to our velocity. If you're, do you know what the kinematic equations are? Did you ever learn about that?
No.
So it's basic physics equations for determining, I guess, generic Newtonian physics stuff. Like if I throw a ball at this speed with this much acceleration or something, where is it going to land, right? This is the start position, this is the end. So that's just a good thing to look up eventually if you want to get more in-depth on game dev, is just to learn the kinematic equations. But in this case, we're just accelerating downwards, and that's what this does. We get the time since the last frame, times our gravity, subtract that by our velocity. So now we'll have gravity affecting us. Actually, if I run the scene right now, oh, whoops, I'm going the wrong way, because negative is up, I always forget. I'd actually have to do plus equals gravity. So now if I run it with plus equals, you can see I move down always. But one problem with this is that it's continually applying the gravity. So like eventually it's applying a massive amount of gravity now because it just keeps increasing the force downwards. So what I want to do is I need to check if I'm on the ground. And then if I do, just set my current velocity to be a very low amount. So like I can do if is on floor. So this is a method that if is on floor it returns true if the bottom of your character is touching something, and false if you're not. So it just tells if you're on the ground or not. So what I can do here is just set velocity y to equal 0 if we're on the floor. So yeah, in there you would set it to be 0.
Oh, 0.
Yeah. So the order here is actually kind of important because is on floor returns true or false based on if you collided with a floor the last frame. And just basically it sees what you've collided with and sees if the bottom of your character collided with something that is within a certain slope. So if you like hit a really steep slope, it doesn't count you as being on a floor. But it only updates after move and slide is called, or even if it was called the previous frame, right? So what happens is if we didn't have any negative, like if we didn't have any downward velocity, this would not hit anything on the floor and would assume it's false. So right now I've set velocity to be 0, and then literally the next line down, we apply a little bit of gravity. So that way it will still have a little bit of downward momentum. So that way it'll still update if it's on the floor or not. So now if I run it, if I hit F5, you can see my character is able to move up and down the slopes. You actually see I'm kind of bouncing down the slopes because I'm kind of, the character is lightweight. Yeah, you see that? Like down the, it gets a little air time there. If I had done move and slide with snap, that wouldn't happen. But I'm not worried about it for this right now. But yeah, it's maintaining like a set, it doesn't like accumulate gravity when I stand still. So next up we can do jumping. So all we're gonna do for jump is we just check, where we're gonna put this, I'll put it up here. If input.isAction just pressed jump, then we're going to say velocity dot y equals jump force. So you want to do just pressed. So is action pressed is returns true every single frame that you're holding down a button. Is action just pressed returns true on the only once on the frame that you actually press the key down.
So if
input dot is action underscore just underscore pressed.
Okay.
Just goes after action.
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you would put parentheses jump.
Okay, there you are. Okay.
Oh, and yeah, you want the quotations. And then input should be capital I. There you go. Okay, so now it's going to return true on the frame that we press the jump key, which is spacebar. So then you just set velocity y to equal our jump force. Oh wait, that should be negative jump force since negative is up. So yeah, just you can put a minus sign in front of the word jump force. But there is one problem here. So basically what's going on is saying, okay, set our velocity to be jump force, but then 2 lines down is checking if we're on the ground, and then it's resetting our velocity. So what's going to happen is if we're on the ground and we press jump, it's going to see we're on the ground, and then it's going to overwrite what we just did and set it to 0. So just cut this and move it above it so that gets called before.
Put it above the is action just press jump.
Yeah. Or I mean not that part, put lines 23 and 24.
Okay.
No, you would leave velocity.y equals negative jump force goes after the if is action just pressed. It's so just hit Control Z a few times. Control Z, a couple more times. There, yeah, one more. No, wait. Now indent that line. Indent. So just go, yeah, put the minus sign there and then indent the line once.
Can there be any space after the minus, or just minus jump force?
I think it probably could have a space, but I don't think it matters. But go to the beginning of the line and hit tab. That way it's, yeah, now it's inside the if statement. And then highlight 24 and 25, highlight both those lines.
Done.
And then Control X. And then go to line 20 and Control V. Yeah. So now it resets your velocity if you're on the ground, and then the frame after it'll set the velocity if you're jumping. So now if you run, wait, is that?
I'm getting an error on 23. Space is used before tabs on the line.
Oh, yeah, get rid of that. Wait, where is this space? Just hit backspace until you get to all the way to the left. And now hit tab twice. There you go. Oh, you need a colon at the end of the line too?
Yeah.
Alright, now if you run the scene, if you hit jump, your character will jump. It's pretty floaty right now. We can change the jump force and the gravity and stuff. But now try hitting space while you're in the air. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're just continuously.
Yeah, it lets you infinity jump. So we'll have to add a ground check. Also, I'm going to turn up the gravity to like 200 because it's too floaty. Oh, it's still too floaty. Hang on. I'd like to have really like sharp gravity. Trying to figure out a good amount. So 500, maybe 400 on the jump force.
400 on the jump force?
I'm just messing around with different values. You can try changing them. Just, yeah, give yourself different values. I like things that are like sharp and responsive and give. Let's see. Oh, also here's a trick I forgot to mention. At the beginning of your variable, you can type export. So like next to move speed, I can type export. I can do that on gravity, and we'll put that on jump force as well. And now, yeah, like so. There you go. Now, if you go to your player scene and you click the node here, so just all the way on the left, yeah, just click the player node. Now on the right, you can see you can actually set those values from here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You could also set them in this world scene. If you go to world scene, if you click the player,
right on.
You can also set them, but that would just set them only for this scene, like only for the instance of the player right here. Like if you were to have the player node in another scene, it would still have whatever the defaults were. But if you set them in the player node scene itself from the editor, then it'll be the same across every level that they're in. Okay, so we have these set. Now we just need to check if we're on the floor. So what I can do is actually just copy this part where it says is on floor, line 20 for you. So don't include the if part, just get the part where it says is on floor.
Yep.
And then you can put it right after your jump. You can type and is on floor. Or yeah, paste. You'll need to get rid of the colon before the and. There you go. Yeah. So now when we jump, it'll check if we're on the floor before it applies the jump force. So now if you run it, you'll see we can't jump when we're in the air.
All right.
All right, so we have basic platformer movement now. So we can, I guess, let's see, you want to do shooting and aiming?
Yeah, why not?
So let's see, how are we gonna set this up? So for aiming and shooting, we want to get the angle from the player to the mouse, and we need to rotate a gun. So let's add in a new node here. So on the player, Control A, add in a new node.
Oh, hold on. On the player, world player?
Just go into the player scene. Yeah, and then add in the node, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So add in a node 2D. So this is just a blank 2D node. There's nothing special about it. It just has a position and a rotation and a scale, basically. So this is going to be, let's say, our, I don't know, weapon base, we'll call it. So this will be what weapons go under. And so you can see in the scene itself here, there's a little cross thing where it is.
Yeah.
So we can move that up, since probably you'd want the arm or like the rotation point for the guns to be up more higher on the player, so you can just move it straight up to like right there. And then I'm going to add another node I'll call gun as a child of that. So just select the weapons base, Control A, node 2D, and then name it gun, I guess. Yeah. So like if I wanted multiple guns, I could like have like a machine gun, like it would be like shotgun, you know, pistol, whatever. I could name it like that. That's kind of,
okay.
I go for like typically modular setups like this, but in this case we'll just have one gun called gun. And I'll add a sprite under it and put the icon on it, and I'll scale it something like this. And you want to make sure it's a child of the gun node.
But
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, like that. Okay. If you select the gun, make sure that the X is like, or make sure that the sprite, is like at a good point. So if you rotate the weapons base, you can see that it's rotating everything here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also you could change the color of this if you want. Just visibility, modulus, I'll give it like green or something. Visibility under canvas item. Yeah.
Make it purple.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So we want to rotate this. So if we go into our code, into our script,
yep.
we need a reference to our weapons base. So we're going to type in up at the top, on ready var weapon base. Equals, and then you'll do $ weapon base. And you can have it autocomplete, yeah. Just hit enter there. Yeah. So on ready means when the scene loads, run this, because you can't get a reference to a node until the scene loads, so you always have to, if it's outside here like this, it's not in a method, you have to type on ready before the variable name. But yeah, now this variable weapon base references our weapon base node here. So now we can have it rotate to face our mouse. So to do that, let's define a method for that. So if you go in the script, go down to the bottom here, and we'll type function, or just func, and we'll call it, I don't know, point weapon at mouse. You could call it something else like, I don't know, face mouse or something. Point weapon at mouse. There you go, yeah. And then new line. There you go. Okay, so this is going to be where we do all the math and stuff for handling pointing the weapon base at the mouse. So what we need to do is we need to get the position, well, we need to get the angle between these 2 points. And so there's some trigonometry and stuff that is involved, but it's not really important to understand it. All we need to do is we need to get a vector that points from the weapon base to the mouse position. So we can do var vec to mouse, I'll call it, and this will be equal to we get global mouse position minus weapon base dot global position.
Oops. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that looks good. So what this does is, so weapon base global position, that gives the weapon base's position in global coordinates, and then we also get the mouse's position in global coordinates. And then if you have 2 points, you can get the direct, or you can get a line pointing from one to the other by subtracting the goal point from the start point. So in this case, the mouse position minus the weapon's position, now that gives us a line pointing, from one to the other. So we have a vector pointing to the mouse position. Does that make sense, or is that too wordy? I could do like a diagram.
Global position is like obviously like more than just the scene, right? Like it's all throughout.
So like
the mouse.
Global position would be like local position is like, so this gun, its local position is 0, right? If I look under transform, it's 0 because it hasn't moved relative. That's its position relative to the weapon base, whereas global is relative to the entire scene, right? So like this is 0 globally. So its weapon's position globally is actually like, I don't know, -27 or something, right? On the Y.
Okay.
And then, oh, somebody in chat said destination minus me. That gives you the vector pointing at some. So if my mouse is up here, that's this point, and then our gun position is over here, we get this line pointing this way to the mouse by taking the destination position minus the gun position.
Okay.
And then trigonometry, basically there's something you can do where if you treat this like a triangle, a right triangle, so this would be like the long side, and you have one side like this and one side like this, you can get this angle here. I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor very well. But
yeah, I'm watching it.
Okay, so yeah, we can get the angle here by using arctangent, which you would just do, I think it's, I always like mix them up, but I think it's atan to, and I think it's vector to mouse dot, it's one of these, vector to mouse dot x dot y, or I might have to like switch these. But basically I do weapon base dot global rotation equals arctangent of this vector. You have to pass in the x and the y separately. So
I won't be putting that one though, right?
No, you can. I'm not sure if it's going to have the correct angle, but I'll just mess with it after. But it'll give some angle that's almost correct. And then global rotation, yeah.
And then
I know there's an angle method directly in vectors, but it never works right when I use it, so I always use the trigonometry way.
There's a mistake right there. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So now we have to
Very
actually.
responsive. So all things considered, it'll tell you where you messed up.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what's nice about editors. But the worst part is when they don't tell you, because sometimes that happens and it's like error. It's like where?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have to actually run this method here, right? So we can just get the name of it and put it right there with the parentheses. So that's going to get called within physics process. There you go.
There you
yeah. Go. Do you understand what's going on with functions, like how that works?
Not clearly, but
Okay.
I think that overall it's more like you're speaking. You're obviously talking to the system. You're just trying to give it like a command, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like with if this happens or whatever, and pass and variables and all this function, you're obviously just having like a kind of like direct command with everything after is obviously like the connection to the command that you're giving. That, I mean, obviously with the colors, with all the color variables that it has within the language, it makes sense like that. Those would obviously be on a higher hierarchy than everything else.
Okay.
Where like obviously it wouldn't work without the variables or the if functions and all that stuff.
Okay. So like the way I think of a function is it's basically like a stand-in for. So like we wrote all this code here, right? And when we say this, when we call this function, it's the exact same thing as if I were to copy paste this code in here and delete that, right? But I like to have it in a separate method like this because, well, one, if we wanted to call this multiple times in different spots, you know, we could do that, and it would be a lot easier than copying and pasting this in 5 different spots.
No, true.
And then also, if we wanted to change something, like let's say I'm like, oh, actually I got this wrong, I want to put a minus sign there. Then if I had copy and pasted this in like 5 different spots, I would have to go to all 5 of those spots and then put minus signs in each one of those spots. So this lets me very easily like duplicate code, and it also makes it easier to read because it's like I have a set spot where it's like this handles pointing the gun at the mouse. That's it. That's all this does, and it's just in this one area, this is where I'm going to handle that.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like just a readability thing also. Duplication and readability.
Yeah, so you don't have all that clutter.
Exactly. So let's test and see if this works now. So if I just run the scene, you can see, okay, so I did get it wrong. You can see it's flipped, right?
Yeah.
So I just need to mess with the values, figure out which one I got wrong. I forget if it might be Y and then X. Let me see. Okay, yeah, it is Y. So it'd be Y then X, not X then Y.
All right, it'll be harder that way.
There you go.
Now we're good.
Okay, so now we have the gun pointing at it. So now we can actually make it shoot. So let's see. Do you want to do hit scan or do you want to do projectiles?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess we could do hit scans. A projectile sounds like a physical nightmare, a physics nightmare.
It's a little more work. It's not like a whole lot more work, but it is a little more.
Whichever you think is appropriate, I think I'm down for whichever.
I'm trying to think, because if I did hit scan, it's like easy to see, but then, or it's easy to do, but then to visualize it is, because you'd have to like make it like spawn a hit particle so you know what it hit. I mean, we're gonna have to do that either way, but it's like, if we're spawning stuff, I might as well already just do projectiles. But then projectiles have like some annoying stuff you have to handle, and I'm like, what?
Okay, yeah, whichever is fine by me. I'm gonna make this. Can I make this platform a little bit bigger?
Oh yeah.
I didn't take into account how small it was. Now I'm just like walking on an extremely small island here.
Yeah. Go ahead. Like change your setup however you want. Make a big level with lots of stuff to do, or lots of stuff to like move around on.
There we go. Here we go. I was like, damn, I didn't give myself no space. Here's the other ground right here. I'm gonna rotate it. Yeah, there we go.
And you can duplicate with Control D. If you want to make more.
D, yeah, I gotta make mine more impressive than yours.
You're the professional artist here.
Yeah. It is going on Steam after today.
It is.
Alright, so if we were to run it now. Okay, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, now you got more stuff to do. Like, and you can try going up the slope. Yeah.
Alright, perfect.
So yeah, let's just do hit scan because that's easier. So what we want is we're going to create a raycast. So if we can just use a node for this, that's the easiest. So if you go under gun,
yep,
and hit Control A, and then type in raycast and click raycast 2D. And then this is really dumb, but for some reason it's disabled by default. So if you go over to the top right, make sure you click enabled so that it will be enabled. And then you can see here there's an arrow pointing straight down. So that's basically it's pointing a line straight down. Go over to cast 2 over here.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and so you can see it's pointing to Y50 relative to the player right now. So change that to be 0 on the Y and let's say 50 on the X. And now you can see now it's pointing to the right.
Okay, there you go.
And I mean, we'd probably want it to be able to shoot pretty far, at least off screen. So if I change it to like 1,000, you can see now it's pointing off screen.
The arrow would extend.
Yeah. So basically what we can do with this is we can just reference it and it'll say whatever the line is touching. So if I go up to debug at the top left, you can do visible collision shapes. And then if we run the scene, you can see the line is attached to the gun, right?
True, yeah, I see that.
And then it'll just see basically the first shape that intersects with the line, and we can get the exact position and in what it's intersecting with, and use that to do like hit stuff, right?
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to turn off the debug view here, but we want to reference to that. Well, actually, we want to make this modular. So we're going to make the gun separate. It's going to have its own code. So if you click the gun node, click the add script thing at the top. Yeah, right there. And now we're going to add a gun script. So just clear out everything in here. And then we want to get a reference to the raycast, so we'll do onReady var raycast equals $raycast2D.
$.
And then we're going to have function fire. So this will handle all the logic for firing the gun in here.
Perfect.
And then in here we can do, let's see, we're going to do raycast dot is colliding, and this will be in an if statement. So first we just want to see, is the raycast colliding with anything? So it's just going to check, is the line coming out of the raycast hitting anything.
It didn't show up as a drop down.
Why is that? Why are you getting weird?
Raycast 2D relative to...
raycast is not capitalized on your the R. No, on line 3. It's got to be. It has to have the exact same case as the node name.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, see, and the D needs to be capitalized also. Okay, so now, and then the
I forgot if.
yeah.
There you go.
So if it should be good. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now if we're colliding, we want to do raycast dot get collider. We'll say dot name. I think I can do that. Yeah, dot name, and we'll print that. So right now we're just gonna print the name of whatever we're pointing at, basically. Get collider. Is it not? And then it's still throwing errors for you. Relative. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens when it runs it.
What's after name? I can't quite see.
Parentheses. I can make this bigger.
Yeah, well, I can do that.
All right, so something's throwing errors for you. I can't.
Let me see.
Maybe it's just leftover. Raycast 2D relative. Maybe it's just a bug. All right, so now we need to get a reference to our gun script. So if we go back to our player, we can say onReady var gun equals weapon base gun, like so. Yeah, and just if you click the thing, it'll auto get the case sensitive right when it does the drop down. Okay, so now we want to, we didn't define a fire method or input. So go up to project and then project settings, then input map, and type in fire, and yeah, at the top, no, at the next to action at the top left.
On the top left, right here.
Click that, type in fire, and then hit enter. Yeah. And then click plus, and then mouse button, and it should be left button by default. Mouse button. Mouse.
Oh, mouse
yeah.
button, right. Okay.
So it's left mouse button by default, and then just hit add. So now we have the fire method defined there, and hit OK. So now what we want to do. So this is not physics dependent, so I'm not going to put it in physics process. I'm going to just do process. So this gets run every frame, and we'll just do if input.isAction is action just pressed fire. Then we're going to go. Oh, wait for you to write that.
That's capitalized.
Yeah, input dot is action just pressed. You can also copy it from where you typed in jump. So fire, and then we're going to do gun dot fire. So it's just accessing the gun node, and then it calls the fire method we defined.
I put the wrong.
Why are you getting so much error spam? Maybe, hopefully that's just a bug. We'll see when we run the.
It's mostly according to the gun.
Yeah.
Gun script.
Just hit run and let's see what happens here. Oh, it's working. Oh, but you are getting. Yeah, you're still getting some error spam. If you click, does it do anything? If you're like pointing at something and click. Oh, attempt to call fire on null instance. Okay, so gun is null. It's unable to get. What's going on? Can you? Let's see. So you're getting
errors here.
Node not found. Weapon-based gun relative to root world player. Wait, huh? Okay, go to your player script real quick.
All right. Here we go.
It's saying gun equals weapon-based gun slash gun. Oh, base is not capitalized next to weapon base on gun.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So just get the right case. Now try running it, see if it works. And attempt to call. Okay, raycast. Oh, C is not capital on raycast. There you go. Now run it.
Yeah, you.
Oh.
Oh, now it gave me 2 more things over there. Okay.
Okay, now try running it.
All right.
Okay, so now you see when you click, it's just saying player. That means it's colliding with the player, which we don't want. So it shouldn't, obviously we don't want the gun to collide with itself. Now, if you go to the gun, or to the raycast node here, you can see it says exclude parent, and that's checked by default, but because the player kinematic body is not the direct parent of the raycast, that's not working. But we can set it to ignore certain bodies. We
like
can just
player?
Yeah, we'll have to set it manually though, through code. So I'm gonna go on the gun script and I'll add a method called function set bodies to ignore and bodies, and then yeah, like so. Bodies to ignore, yes. And then yeah, so this will be an array. So we can loop through an array, and the way you do that would be for body in bodies, and then we can do stuff inside this loop. So the format for a loop, basically a loop is going to say, so we're going to pass in a list of bodies in case the player had more than one thing to ignore. Like if you had the player and then there was like, I don't know, another physical object attached to the player that you didn't want the gun to be able to hit, you could pass that in as well. So there's a whole list of kinematic bodies or something to ignore. So it's going to go take that list, and then we do for body and bodies, and it's going to go through every entry in that list, and it'll give us a value called body for each entry, and then we can do something to each one of those entries. So in this case, we're going to do raycast.add, add exception. And then we add, I think it's add exception. Let me check the add exception. Yeah, add collision. Yeah, okay. So add exception, and we put body. And so that's going to add a collision exception for that body. So it's not going to count as colliding with that. It's not going to think that it can collide with that. So yeah, that's what you got. You can delete line 7 if you want.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so we add the exception. Now we have to actually pass or call this method. So we're going to go to player. This part's a little annoying. So we're going to do under our ready method. So this is called at the beginning of the scene here. So we're going to do gun dot set bodies to ignore, and we want to pass in ourself as a list. So yeah, to ignore, and then delete everything after. Yeah. So you're going to put square brackets around self. So an array works like this. It's like if I were to do like var, I don't know, temp or something equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is an array of integers. So it's square brackets, and then there's 5 numbers in it, which I've set to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means there's 4 things in the array. If I just wanted 1, I would do like self, right? So right now, this is an array with 1 thing in it, or it's a list of 1 thing, or a list that only has 1 entry, and that's self, which is just a reference to the player itself. In this case, if we wanted to pass something else in, we could pass in, the weapon base or something. So it's like if for whatever reason we had collision on the weapon base, we would pass that in as well to be like ignore this and ignore ourself. But in this case, we just want to ignore ourselves, so we're going to pass in a list with just 1 thing in it.
Okay.
I probably made that too complicated. I should have just done 1 collision exception, but oh well.
No, yeah, this is good.
I wanted to introduce loops at some point because that's an important programming thing. Okay, so we're setting it to ignore ourselves, but I'm not sure this is going to work. Let me just run this and see what happens. Did it? Oh, it did work. Okay, cool. So now if you point at things and click on them, it'll print the name of, static body, right? Yeah. And if you want to make it more readable, I could go to these static bodies in here, and I could give it like, each one could get like a unique name, right? And then I could click it, and then I can see that it's pointing at different ones, right? So it's getting the one that I'm clicking at, or I'm aiming at when I click. But that's not very exciting. Let's like make it shoot sparks when at the point that we hit at. Yeah. So let's make some sparks. That's going to be the main thing. So make a new scene, and we'll 2D scene, and we'll call it sparks, and save that. So now let's add a particles node. So particles 2D. Yeah, next one down. There you go. So particles 2D, and then so this is what handles particles in Godot, is the particles node, and it's kind of annoying to get set up, but if you go over to here where it says process material, click new particles material. So that one. Yeah. And then so now you can see some dots falling. So if we click the actual process material here, if you click this thing, this gives us a bunch of stuff we can mess with. So like under gravity, I do want gravity, so I'll leave that on. Direction, let's give us some initial velocity. So I'm going to say like 50. So now you can see it's shooting to the right. If I change the initial velocity, I want to change it to shoot, I guess in all directions, right? So if I go under direction, I'm going to change spread to be whatever the max value is, so I can just drag this to top, so that's 180. Yeah, so now it's shooting in all directions. And I want it to be kind of explosive, so if I go up under, I think it's under time, at the very top, all the way at the top.
I'm right here? Oh, there's another time.
Yeah, there's another one, so it's kind of annoying. So under here you can mess with explosiveness, and so I'll just drag that all the way up. Tiny bit. And then I'll also turn up the amount maybe to like 16 or something. Okay, so now we can, this is what it's going to look like when a bullet hits something. It's going to shoot these sparks out. So I should mess with it a little bit to make it look better, look more natural. So if I go under initial velocity, first I'll change it to have some randomness. So like, say, I don't know, 50% randomness. So if you go under initial velocity, there's velocity random right underneath the velocity.
Yep.
So the random, basically zero would mean no randomness at all. Everything moves at the exact same speed. 1 means everything has a completely random value from 0 to whatever value we set. So some of them could have a velocity of 0, some of them could have a velocity of 50. If I put it at 0.5, then some of them could have 25 to 50, I think. I think that's how it works. But yeah, so I'll just put like, I don't know, 0.7 or something. So there's some randomness to it. I'm going to turn up the initial velocity. And then also I'm going to change the time, the lifetime at the top, because it's like sparks. It should go, I feel like it should go quicker. Something like 0.4. Yeah. And then we can, let's see, we can set the color. There's like a bunch of different things you can mess with down here, so.
Be like, I don't know.
Yeah, so you can do a color like a yellow or something, but you can also do a color ramp, which is the color over time. So if you click next to color ramp, yeah, right there, click new gradient texture, and then click that, and then new gradient. And then click the gradient, and then now you can click these little bars here, and then you can change the color of it. So like I could do like that, and then I click the other one and change that to have its own color. Like, I mean, I think, wait, what?
Oh, true. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and you can click inside and do like third or fourth color or something, like if I wanted to. But and then you right click to delete it. But yeah, I don't know, pick a color that looks natural. You can also, if you change the alpha over here, you can make it fade out. Like, usually what I'd do is, like, if I want something to fade out, I'd have it alpha of 0 on the last part, and then put like a third one in between or something. So like fades out quickly right at the end.
Oh yeah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is just artistic stuff you mess around with, figure out what you like. You could also do scale, so like right here I have the option of changing the scale of the particles. And I could do a scale curve, just like I did with the gradient. You can like add in a curve over here. So new curve, click that. And then you click that, yeah. And then you can mess with this, so like you start at 0 and get bigger, or start at 1 and get smaller. Like you can move around the points and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you can add in new points. So yeah, that's one thing. I could change the size so you can see it better. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'll probably do like size of 2 or something. But yeah, this is fine for right now, I think. This is, again, something you could just mess around with artistically.
Must be trying to see what it looks like if I made it really big.
Yeah. Okay, so this is good. Now we want to actually spawn this wherever we hit, but we need to think about what happens when it spawns. So it's going to spawn, we just want the sparks to shoot once, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click one shot. So that means, so if you go up to the top right,
one shot right here?
Yeah, so that means it'll, when you do emitting, it'll run once and then turn off.
And that's it, yeah.
So that's what we'd want. Now when we actually spawn the scene, we can add in also Control A and do a timer. Control A and then timer. And then, so with the timer selected all the way on the right, there's a wait time, so that means the timer will run for 1 second, and then it sends out a signal at the end. And I think 1 second's fine, but if you wanted, you could do 2 or 3. And then I'm just going to do auto start. So that means that timer will automatically start when the scene is created. And then when it's done, when the timer is done, I want it to delete this node. So I'm going to go over to node here, this node tab, the top right. And so there's a timeout signal here. So there's a bunch of different signals on different methods, and basically the way they work is you can optionally connect to them to different functions on methods to have them, I don't know, it's extra detail of things you can do. So in this case, timeout's called when it, or sent out when the timer reaches 0. So I can go down here and click connect. And then, let's see, we want to connect it to Sparks, but it's not letting, because there's no script on anything, it doesn't let us connect to anything. So I can just click advanced here, and then select the Sparks node, and we're going to have it call, if you type down here, receiver method, queue free. This is a method that's on every node, and it basically deletes it. So queue free, yeah. So I'll delete it at the end of the frame. And I just click connect. So now, once this Spark scene is instanced, the timer method will wait 2 seconds and then call delete, right? So it'll auto delete after it gets spawned.
Okay.
But we also need to actually call the particles method to like play the particles effect. So I'll just add a script to Sparks here, and then delete all this stuff. So select Sparks, yeah. Delete everything except the ready method, or you can write the ready method out too.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. And then in ready, we're going to get a reference to the particles. So it'd be $ particles 2D. It's got to be capital, so make sure the case is right. You can just double click. Yeah, there you go. And then we need to call the restart method, which basically starts, it just plays the particle effect from the beginning. And then that's all there is to this. So the sparks object is entirely self-contained, and it'll place some sparks wherever it is and then delete itself. So now from the player's, or from the gun's point of view, what we want to do is when we call fire is we want to place sparks wherever we hit. We want to place that sparks object. So we first need to get a reference to that object, but it's not in our scene. So the way we just want to get a reference to it outside, or like its object in the file system basically. So we can just get, we'll call it sparks object equals preload sparks, like so. So this is getting a variable that preloads the sparks object into it.
That's capital
Yeah.
spark.
So one cool thing you can actually do, so this is just the path to the sparks object in the file system. What you can do is you can actually click on that object in your file system, so like bottom left, and you can just drag it, and it'll, so like if you drag it to here, it'll place its path in the code editor, so you don't have to actually type it out. Did you, you didn't capitalize it in yours, so it wouldn't be capitalized for you, the S.
I
line 4.
This one here?
Yeah, you wouldn't capitalize that S. So yeah, there you go. It's case sensitive. So we have the object. So now we want to actually spawn it, which is kind of complicated to do here. So we're going to do, we need a sparks instance, we're going to call it, and this will be sparks object dot instance. So the sparks object just has data about the node. It's not an actual thing in our game world. To make it a thing in the game world, you need to instance it. So we make an instance, and then we store that in a variable so we can do stuff with it.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to delete this print statement since I don't need it. Then we need to actually add it to our game world. So it's in the game engine as an instance, but it's not in our actual scene. So we have to get the scene tree by doing get tree. Then we have to get the root of the scene tree, and then we add a child to it, and we add the sparks instance.
That's right. It showed up for me.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. So now it's in the game world, but it's not at the right position. So now what we do is we need to get raycast.get collision point. So we get the point that our raycast is colliding with, and we're going to set our sparks global position to equal that. Oh wait, that's going to block your screen. Right. Yeah, sparks instant global position.
There you go. And then raycast like that, right?
Yeah, that looks good. So now we can run this. And if you click, you'll see wherever you shoot,
yeah.
There you go. It's spawning sparks there. So yeah, there we go. Ultra basic, first steps of a platformer shooter. All right, so tell me everything that confuses you about what we've done so far with this code.
I think it's less confusing and more having to understand the language, just knowing it. There is nothing confusing about this. It's more of a matter of getting used to the definition of everything and what everything means and how does it function and react and all this other stuff with language. It's just a matter of really more of time and doing it time and time and time again in order to like now it's like eventually you look at the dropping green text in the matrix and it'll make sense. Like it's kind of like you just have to kind of
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely.
It's really straightforward, obviously, all things considered.
Yeah, I think it's just. I mean, you just have to do it like on a regular basis every day. Do you have plans to try that, or? Oh
no, absolutely. I mean, the first step of it is understanding the UI, and then like reading more into these. Obviously, every engine has functions differently according to its own language, so. This is obviously such a huge step into being comfortable with the engine. Absolutely, I don't see why it would end now.
Cool. Okay.
I'd totally love to dig in deeper and figure it out on my own, and obviously it's become so approachable now with all different engines like Unity and all this other stuff and all these like new devs coming in and creating something new out of it. Like damn, like why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna hurt. Just a matter of getting your foot in. I think that's like what a lot of people are really scared of is like how do you even start? I think that's the question you ask.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
But this is really great stuff.
Yeah, because I think a big problem a lot with tutorials is like they're made by people like me who have been like making games for 8 years, and it's like at that point you kind of forget what it's like to be a beginner, and you forget like how do you even teach a beginner because you're just recording it, but you're not actually talking to someone. So it's like that's why I kind of wanted to do something like this with someone who's a beginner who's like, because then I can talk to you while you're doing it, and I can see exactly what you struggle with and where the problem areas, and then like other beginners can see it and be like, oh, I can actually follow along. And
exactly. And generally speaking, like when you explain something, when anybody explains something, they explain it in a way that they understand it, right? So what they'll be like, okay, this, like all of these different instances within the code like make sense to me because this is the way I know and how I explain them. But obviously, for someone who has like no idea, right? They're like, wait, so what does that mean again? But I mean, honestly, like with the capability of just simply clicking on on any part of the body of the code and then having the explanation by like when you control click something, for example, and you have that almost like encyclopedia of how the stuff works, and it's almost like you didn't have that like 10 years ago,
no,
you didn't. Or whatever. So like there was like it was trial by fire, so it was like like there's a lot to learn, but it's not daunting, it's not intimidating, it's really straightforward. It looks fun, more fun than intimidating by now.
Cool. Okay. Let's see, do you want to add some graphics and then we can call it there?
Oh yeah, why not? I think I think that's probably something I'd be able to be familiar with.
Let's see. So we can find some free graphics online. I typically either use itch.io or OpenGameArt for graphics. I was just gonna like browse through free stuff. So if you go on,
I just put some Doom textures on it. No, I'm kidding.
You got it? I don't know. Is that legal? I guess.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Like so.
itch.io, right?
itch.io/game assets. You can also just go and click the assets tab.
Oh, there we go. I see it.
Yeah, and then there's also opengameart.org, which has a bunch of free assets as well. It's always good to check the licenses too on what you can do with stuff. So I'm wondering if there is just a straight up platformer shooter or something. I know Kenny has platformer shooter stuff.
Wait, let me look for your.
Is there anything for... Oh, these are projects. Collections, maybe under here. Platformer. Anyone in the chat knows a good platformer shooter art collection, asset collection, send a link.
Yeah, give it to us.
Yeah.
Free. Trying to make a game here.
What's a good... Oh, there's one I used for like a jam ages ago, but it was like... I don't know, it was like a real pain to set up. It was some game that went in the public domain like in 1998.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Create our own in Paint, somebody said. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, that's top down.
Yeah. Like an RPG. There was some like first person shooter. There's like some FPS graphics on that one though. There's like a double barrel shotgun on that one, on the one that you said that was top down.
Oh wait.
Right? Look on the bottom, or just under that one. There's like a shotgun and stuff. A second picture on the second row.
Oh yeah. There are.
Yeah, right there.
Huh.
Yeah. I guess it's like a gallery shooter.
Yeah, I was thinking that's the word. Oh, somebody said search sci-fi and set pixel art filter. Wait, I don't know how to search this. Oh yeah, the game was called Abuse, the one that went public domain.
Oh, true.
I don't even know how to search on here.
Yeah,
So-
it's quite.
It doesn't let you search for these.
Yeah.
Oh, pixel art, here we go. Okay, pixel art, sci-fi. It's not appending my tags. Pixel art and sci-fi, here we are. Oh, this looks good. Okay, here's a tile set we can use. So there's a shotgunner and a character. Oh wow, there's a lot of character packs. Yeah, okay, fully animated. Yeah, I'll download
Wow.
this. And should I send you the link?
No, I got it.
Okay. All right. Let me know when you got it set up. We can go through the assets. Okay, so yeah, here we have the tile set, or the character sheets. Oh, there's a bunch of different ones. Okay, yeah, we can set up these animations pretty easily. Where is the tile set though? I thought it said there was a tile set in here. Asset pack page. Pack includes start tile set, 4 fully animated enemies. I don't see any of those things in here.
Yeah.
Huh. Maybe I'm just supposed to no, it's not that. Yeah, it just gave me this guy. Oh, that's annoying. False advertising. Oh, maybe it's that second one? Nope. It's weird. Oh, you have to pay $5 or more for the dark edition. Wait. Okay, I guess you have to pay for that one. Yeah, okay, so the character's free. Yeah, the character's free. I just need a tile set also. So we could do, yeah, we can go for this industrial tile set also. I don't know what the resolution difference is going to be, but Probably not that bad. They both look pretty blocky. So if you get this industrial tile set here.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just use that one actually, because that has a character in it too. So yeah, just download that. Version 2, sure. Okay, and that's just a flat image, so that's pretty easy to work with. Okay. Whoops. So you can, let's see, take the image and just drag and drop it into Godot. I should probably have a separate folder for this actually. So you can just right click anywhere in here and do new folder. I'll just make one called graphics or something. And I'll just drag in the image. And then, yeah, so we got the sprite here. Let's see. We start with the character, I guess. And then, so for a character, you can use Control A. I'll add in an animated sprite node on the player.
Which graphics are we using for the character?
So so that's a whole sprite sheet. It has all the sprites, so we can just select the stuff we want off of it.
Okay.
So if you select your player node, you can go add an animated sprite node. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I don't know if this sprite sheet is like aligned properly for this. But yeah, you add in, oh, did you add an animated sprite?
To the player node?
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. So then over here, go to frames, and you can do new sprite frames. And then click that once you add it.
Yep.
So it should make, if you click this, it makes a pop-up down here.
Okay.
So this is all our animations on the left. So there's a default blank one. I'll call this run. And so this is going to be our run animation. So we need to add in our stuff. So we click this button here, add frames from a sprite sheet. Then we can go to our graphics and go to double click the image. And now you can see that it's, yeah, double click that. You can see it's got 4 giant blocks, or it's 4 by 4, I mean, which is not the size of the sheet. So we can just increase these until it aligns properly to the character. I don't know what the character's at. Wish I could zoom in on this. Okay, I think it might be 32. Not sure.
I think I just, oh wait. I gotta move the correct one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 32 by 32. And then you can, let's see.
You can click on the grid. I think you can click on the grid.
Yeah, so you can click and select all these nodes here. It's really annoying you can't zoom in on this, but so yeah, we can just select those ones and that'll be the run animation. So click add 8 frames when you're done with that. Oh, also, if you zoom in, you can see it's really blurry. What you can do to fix that is you double click or just click on the image here. Oh, looks like you didn't add them. But here, just click on this image right here real quick.
Okay.
And then go up to import at the top left.
Where do you have? Okay, right there.
Yeah, and then, where is it? Click preset up here. Yeah, and then do 2D pixel. And then click re-import. And that turns off. That'll make it so it's not blurry. You'll get nice crispy pixels. But go back to your animated sprite node. Click the import from sprite sheet. Add frames from a sprite sheet. At the bottom. You already have it. Yeah, there.
Right here? Okay. And then where do I click? Right here?
Yeah, add frames sprite sheet, and then choose the image, open it. And I know you were there. Yeah,
yep.
That. Open that. So double click or click open. And then select the 8 run animation nodes. Yeah, and then click add 8 frames.
Okay.
There you go. And now you can hit play. Where's the play button? I think it's, no, it's not that one. Oh, here it is, playing. So you would click this up here. On the right where it says playing, you would check that. all the way on the top right. Yeah, right there.
Oh, there we go.
And you can change the speed down here. So right now it's at 5 FPS. I could turn it up to 15. That looks a lot nicer. At the bottom left.
There we go. Perfect. No, I'm kidding.
Oh wait, what's that? Oh, speed scale. Oh yeah, you can turn that up too. But at the very bottom left, it shows the FPS.
At the bottom left.
Bottom left, very bottom, where your sprites are. Yeah.
Okay.
So you could. I set that to 15 FPS on mine. And your speed scale is 2. You could just hit the arrow to reset it. Yeah. And also, that's if you don't want it to loop, you can, you know, uncheck that and it won't loop. Let's make another animation. So we're going to do new animation. So you just click this thing here.
Yep.
And then we'll call this one jump, I guess. I think there was a jump animation in that sprite sheet. Can't really tell. Oh, it looks like there's a land animation. I think that's when you like hit the ground. But we can just take one frame from that. So if you do the import from sprite sheet button, then choose that. And then choose like this frame. That'll be our jump animation. Yeah, just that one frame. We also want an idle, so I'll add one more. Call it idle. And then we do add from sprite sheet again. So yeah, call it idle.
Do this.
Yeah, and then I'm not
It's
sure.
that whole top. It's that almost whole top area, row, isn't it? It looks like he's like bouncing.
I think that might be I'm not sure. Yeah, we could try just selecting that whole top row. I think that might be a land animation, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like a squash, like when you hit the ground or something.
Oh,
If
true.
Yeah, but we can just take a couple of these frames. So like I could maybe like 1, 2, and 3. So I'll like remove. Whoops. That. Oh, that's annoying that it goes back to the start every time. Let's see.
Maybe just like 2 of them.
It looks like the eyes move, so I'm trying to figure out what's like a... These all look kind of weird. Maybe if I just took... Oh, we could just use a static one like this for idle. Or, I mean, I'm wondering if... Yeah, it looks like there wasn't an idle animation in this thing. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, well,
You could just do 0 and 1, and then just bring the FPS down to like maybe like 1 or 2.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I like
And
that.
then he just looks like he's kind of like bouncing up and down.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like 5 FPS or so. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. Then we got jump. We got run. Wait, why is it? Oh, here. You can change what animation is playing at the top right, where it shows the animation. Okay, so that's good. Now we need to actually play those animations based on what we're doing. Oh, also we need to actually make this sprite match our player's collider. So I'll move it up a bit, and then I'll also transform and scale it by like double, maybe even triple actually. Yeah, I'll move it to like there. Actually, maybe I should scale everything else around this. I don't know. We can figure it out later. But for now, yeah, I'm just scaling that up 3 times so it matches the... Oh, it looks like the bottom of your collider is not at 0 also. You might want to move that and the player sprite. So everything's at 0. Like how,
Where do I fix?
So you would move your collision shape
Yeah.
is like a bit high. So move it to the bottom of it is at exactly at X there, at the red line.
Do I do the same with the character? Like, not the sprite, but the...
Yeah, the collision shape and the sprite.
collision
Yeah,
shape,
you would
right,
want them
okay.
all to have the bottom at 0. Yeah. And I'm not going to worry about making everything like snap and align correctly. But we can delete this sprite now that we put in as placeholder. Just the main sprite. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And
Would we have to bring the gun down a little bit, considering how...
Yeah, you could bring it down. Just move the weapon base down to where the character's hands are. And then also... maybe put the animated sprite at the top of the hierarchy so everything else shows in front of it. It'll make it easier to tell where your collision is and stuff. Yeah, and you'd also want the gun to show over. Oh yeah, so your capsule shape there, move that down so the bottom of it is at 0. Your collision shape, yeah, that. Move that down so the bottom touches, yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so now we need to make it so it actually plays the animations. So if we go into our player script, we can get a reference to animated sprite, like so. So $, and then yeah, have it autocomplete. So you hit enter there. So then it'll get the case sensitive rate. So now in here, we need to play our animations based on what's going on, right? So if we're moving and we're on the ground, then we need to do one thing. Let's just do, we'll make a method for it. Function update animation, we'll call it. Right? So that would be outside. You want it below where you call point weapon at mouse, because you don't want it to be inside the code for physics process. And then unindent it by 1 line. Yeah, there you go. So that means separate method or separate function. So in here, in update animation, what we want to do is first we want to see if we're on the ground. So is on floor. And if we're on the ground, and let's see, we want to see if our velocity, if our horizontal velocity is, greater than a certain amount, then we want to play the run animation, otherwise we play the walk animation. So we can do if the absolute value of velocity.x, so absolute value just means if it's a negative number, it makes it positive. So we can just see if that is less than, we'll say 0.1, so it's less than a very low amount, then we'll do animated sprite. I think it's play idle. Indent lines 41 and 42. Since they're inside the, don't unindent. Indent, yeah. Indent line 41 one more time also. Yeah, so it's inside the is on floor statement. So this if statement is only called if is on floor is called.
Okay. And then
inside of that, you do animated sprite. Play idle. So now it'll play the idle animation as long as, we're moving less than a certain amount. And then else, so if our velocity is greater than 0.01, we're going to play animated sprite.play run. So unindent else. a bit because you don't want it to be inside this if statement. Whenever you do an else, it has to be on the same line as the if that came before it. And then you gotta unindent line 44. Somebody's making fun of me for how easy it is to teach indentation. And then corresponding to this if, we're gonna do an else. So if we're not on the floor, we're gonna do animated sprite play jump. So you'll have to unindent 45 and 46 because that's got to correspond to our first if, where we're checking if we're on the floor. So if we're on the floor, we do the stuff where we check to see if we're going to play idle or run. If we're not on the floor, we do the stuff to play jump.
Oh, true. Oh, they'd already finished it.
You misspelled play.
Oh, misspelled that.
Yeah. And then unindent that line also. There we go. Okay, and then we just have to call update animation in our main process method. We could call that, I guess we'll call it in physics process, it doesn't matter. So just, yeah, put it after that. There you go. Now, let's see, if I run this, is it going to work great? Okay, it is. Cool. So you can see your character animates. The only problem is it's not facing the direction of travel. So we'll have to make it flip. So to make it flip, let's see. We can put this in update animation. So how are we going to do this? I think under animated sprite, yeah, there's a flip horizontal value on the animated sprite node that flips it to face left or right. So all we have to do is have that be true based on the sign if velocity x is positive or negative. So we can just do, let's see, velocity dot x greater than 0. So if velocity dot x is greater than 0, this will evaluate to true. Otherwise, it will evaluate to false. So wait, actually, I think I want to do less than. And then we can do animated sprite dot flip horizontal equals that. So the flip horizontal value, if it's true, it's going to flip to face left. If it's false, then it'll keep it facing to the right. So all we need to do is check if our velocity dot x is less than 0, so that means it's negative, then that's true. It should flip to the left. Yeah. And I think otherwise it'll keep it facing to the right. I think that could work. That might. Oh, the problem is when we stand still now, it automatically switches back to the right.
There you go.
Yeah, but if you were to stop moving, it keeps facing to the right, no matter what. Which,
so I guess you'd have.
So we can add a little more code for that. So I'll add a variable called facing right and set it to be true. So that's going to keep track of what direction we're facing. So facing right is true, and I'll just check. Yeah, bar facing right. So at the start, we are facing to the right, and then what we do is, if we're facing to the right, and our velocity.x is less than 0, meaning we're moving left, then we want to set animated sprite to be flipped. Yeah, true. We set flip h to true, so it's going to flip, face the other direction. Oh, and we want to set facing right to equal false. So yeah, we're facing to the right, but we're moving to the left. Flip it and say that we're not facing the right anymore. And then, yeah, facing right equals false. And then I copy that. Do you understand the logic of this? Of how it like governs that part? Oh,
yeah, you're just simply telling it like accordingly to where you're facing.
Yeah.
If you're facing this way, then Sprite, flip the Sprite within
Yeah.
right and left. Yeah.
Oh, that should all be in the update animation function. So the if, and then everything below that. Yeah. Every 41 to 43, those lines. Copy that and put it under update animation.
Oh.
And then delete line 46 because that's no longer needed. And then you can copy these 3 lines here, paste it, and we're just going to do the reverse.
Okay.
So basically, if velocity x is greater than 0, and if we're facing to the left. So the way to check if something is not true is you put an exclamation sign. So basically, if we're not facing to the right, so you put exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark.
So if we're not facing the right, but we're moving to the right, set the flip to be false and set facing right to be true.
We're just gonna flip them basically.
Yeah, we just flip everything over. And that should be right. So if you run it now, it should match. And if you like stop moving,
yeah, perfect.
nice. And now let's change the gun graphic also. So if you go under gun to sprite, we can drag our tile set onto the texture there. Drag that up to, top right, under texture there. And then reset the transform, or the scale to be 0 under transform.
Okay, under transform.
Yeah. Set that to be 0. Just click the arrow, it'll reset it. Or I mean to 1, it'll set it to 1. Yeah, just click that, there you go. So now we need to actually select, oh, and under modulate, hit the arrow so it goes back to its default color. Yeah. So now we need to actually select what part of the sprite sheet we want to use. So go under region at the top right. You can click region or drop down that and then click enabled. And then at the bottom, very bottom of your screen, there's now a texture region option.
Yep.
And then you can go to snap mode, choose pixel. And then you go to, you can just like zoom in over to here. You can drag this to make it bigger. Go down to this gun, and we can just like select part of this gun or something. Like I'll select this part or something.
That looks like a turret or a camera.
Yeah, I think it's a gun turret, I think. But I can just select like the top part here.
Yeah.
And then now we have our turret over here. Of course, it's not scaled up to match the player sprite. I think I'm going to scale the player sprite down so that it has the same resolution as everything else, so we don't have to scale stuff. So if I just go back to my animated sprite, I'm going to animated sprite and then reset the scale on the right side. Down, under node 2D, under scale, reset
under
that.
Scale? Or is it?
Yeah, reset. It was right under where you were, under position. Yeah.
Okay, right
that
here.
one. Yeah. So then you can just move the animated sprite down, move the weapon base down to be on the new position. I'll move the gun sprite over. I don't know, somewhere like that. And then I'm going to change the size of the collision shape to match the new size of the player.
We're gonna change the raycast.
You don't need to move the raycast. Just move the gun node or the weapon base node. Yeah. Yeah, and then move the gun sprite to whatever position you want it to be. Yeah. And then change the collision shape. Don't scale it. It's good not to scale collision. I don't know. I've always heard you shouldn't scale them, but like I've done it without problems, but I think it's better to work with the bounds like that. Yeah, with the you just grab those points and move them.
Just grab these?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, make it match the player about. The problem now, of course, is that the player's going to be super tiny on the camera.
Yeah.
So you can select the camera on the top left, camera 2D. Yeah, and then you go to zoom, and we can change the zoom level. I think it's, yeah, so if you change it smaller, so like 0.5 and then 0.5, it'll half the size of the camera area. Now if I were to run the scene, you can see a lot more zoomed in, and the character's a lot smaller compared to everything else.
Oh yeah.
And you can see the gun sprite matches.
That's excellent.
Yeah, let's see, and then we can, just to end, we can do the tile map. So you can like place tiles and stuff. So we can go to our world, and let's just delete all of these ground nodes we made. So if you go to your world scene,
Yep.
just delete all of these.
The ground nodes?
Yeah, just,
Ground 1 and 2 and 3?
yeah, just delete all of them. And then add in a new node, search tile map. So Control A and then tile map. So now we can create a tile set. So if you click over here, on the very right there's a board, it says tile set.
Yeah, on empty.
Yeah, and then click new tile set. And then click that tile set spot we just made. There's currently no tiles defined, so we need to define something. So then you can drag on the sprite sheet into this area here at the bottom left, into this part right here. Yeah.
There you go.
So we want to do a new tile. So click. I think it doesn't let me set the snap options until I like. Where is it? Let me do this. Forget how to do this. It's like kind of like a bit broken. I think they're like updating it in the new version, but right now I can just select new single tile, and I think I can just drag an area, and I'm gonna get, I'll just select this one for now. What's the size on this? Oh, that's what I wanted. Oh, okay, hang on. Yeah, so you click. Yeah, once you do that, you can click that area, and it'll give you snap options.
Okay.
Why is it? Okay. And I can do snap options over here. Once you click on, you have to like actually click within the grid, and then it'll give you snap options. So just click somewhere in the grid there. Yeah, and then over on snap options, now it gives you step. Set that to 16, because this is a 16 by 16. Yeah. And then now we can go over here. I'm just going to delete this one. We can select, I'm going to use, yeah, I'll just use this spot right here as my tile, and then I'll go to, so I just want to select one, so I just click that, and then I go to collision over here and click the box. We're going to give it a box collision shape. So this box here, and then we give it, and then you click on the node itself, or on the tile, I mean, that we just, yeah. And then that gives us a collision shape. Now you can click back on the tile map, right up here. And then one more thing, click cell over here, right here, click this.
All right.
Yeah, and then under size, set it to be 16 by 16. And then now, at last, we can draw tiles.
Okay, perfect.
And you can draw out everything, and if you hold shift, it'll draw tiles in a line. You can hold shift and control, it'll draw them in a square. You right click, it'll delete. Shift right click, delete in a line, control shift, delete in a square. And yeah, you can draw out whatever shape level you want, and of course you can make more tiles by going back to the tile set and clicking new single tile, doing the same thing. So yeah, you can draw this out however you want, and then you can run the scene and actually test it, and you'll see that it collides.
Right click, remove the tile.
Yeah.
Right, hold on, I'm level designing here.
Yeah, there you go.
That's perfect. Is there a way so like the space is the jump is interrupted if he hits his head on the platform, because he gets stuck right under the platform?
Oh yeah.
When you jump right under it.
Yeah, there is. So here's what we can do. If you go back to script on the player, yeah, go to the player script. Yeah, you were there. Hang on, let me bring this back down. So where is it? Move and slide. Move and slide actually returns the velocity you would get after you hit something. So in this case, all we need to do is we just say velocity equals that. We just put this before the move and slide. And then so if we jump up and hit the ceiling, it'll be like, oh, we hit a ceiling, your velocity on the Y should be 0 now. So it returns what your velocity should be, and then you can, so if you actually set your velocity to equal that, now it'll be like physically accurate. So if I go here, now I fall back down. And there's there's tons of tricks you can do to make jumping better. Like we can make so, you jump higher if you hold down the jump button longer. You can make so, coyote time. If you hit jump half a second off after you step off a ledge, you can still jump. There's it's like a ridiculous amount of stuff you can do to make jumping feel better in a platformer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, I didn't even add horizontal acceleration. I could have done that, but my voice is getting a little tired.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Okay, so yeah, let's see. You can find some tutorials and stuff. Yeah, just look up like Godot tutorials, beginner stuff, and just like, I don't know, watch like 1 or 2 a day and follow through on them.
Oh yeah,
and then
for sure.
Eventually, after like a month or 2, you should be ready to like make stuff on your own without using tutorials.
No.
Yeah, maybe we could do like a check-in stream in like a month where we go over more stuff or something. You can like show what you've done.
No, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is cool. I think this is gonna be like I'm gonna like save the archive of this, and it'll be like my go-to, like anyone who's a beginner is like, how do I get started? Here, watch this.
Yeah, perfect.
And it's like, yeah. All right.
We all.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about anything?
Not that I can think of. I think this is like a pretty good introduction to it. Not that I can think of right now, no.
Okay.
I think that overall, like, I think that the texture, the texture, the way that that Godot goes around with the textures and stuff is like pretty straightforward. Like it almost seemed like almost familiar, because like it's almost like uniform in some sense. But I think it all just comes down to getting used to the language. I think that's just 100% what it is, or what is the most practice that you need to get into do. Is the language.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But no, all things considered, it's pretty straightforward.
Cool.